Hi, welcome to another episode of Hobby Business. Today I want to talk about the topic of vintage sports cards, and I want to challenge the notion that I hear a lot from a lot of people that vintage sports cards are a safe place to invest money when it comes to sports cards. Now, I don't personally view sports cards as an investment vehicle. I understand there are people out there that do. And a lot of the conversation that you have, especially on YouTube, is something along the lines of, well, vintage sports cards will, are kind of like the blue chips, people will say, or that they're going to hold up better over time. But the one thing I haven't heard is kind of the challenge to that. If you were to view sports cards as an investment, then you have to look at them in comparison to other investments. So today was the last day of the year for the stock market, and so when we look at stock market investments, this year was down. So real quick, S&P 500 started the year at 4,796, ended at 3,839 today. That's a 19.4% decrease in value from the beginning of the year till the end of the year. Dow Jones was down 8.8% overall. Another alternative investment, I guess, if some people view it this way. I don't. But some people look at Bitcoin as an alternative. Bitcoin started off at the year at $47,000, ended today $16,500 and change, down 66%. So for those that are pushing the notion that vintage sports cards are investment sports cards, I want to break down my thoughts on it, and I'd love to hear what you have to think. I do want to put a caveat out there. I have these cards in the background because I think they're cool. Nice Mike Shannon card, a Boots Day, and a Duffy Dyer. They're purely for background purposes. I am going to show some examples of some cards that I do not specifically own. I just printed off images off of from the PSA registry or from their website, and I created little examples of the cards to be able to use as talking pieces. So we're going to go through there, but I want to kind of paint the context for what's informing my thoughts of why I think vintage sports cards are not a safe place to put aside significant money for some of the bigger cards that are out there. So I want to start, the census is coming up. The Bureau projects the census date for January 1st. They're projecting that we'll have 334 million people in the U.S. at that point in time. So when we think about that, I'm specifically looking at sales for sports cards within the U.S. So there's 334 million people in 2023 and moving forward. But the biggest challenge, well, not the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges that I see coming up for the vintage sports cards market is the fact that our boomers and the boomer population is continuing to age. So I pulled this article from khn.org. And so in here they're saying about the number of seniors, 65 million are expected to surpass the children. So this is going to be, within a couple of years, by 2025, we're going to have more seniors than we have children under the age of 13. And as I think about that, who are the folks that are buying the cards like, your 1960 Topps Mickey Mantles and your 58 Topps Willie Mays? And when I'm talking about vintage sports cards, these are the types of cards I'm thinking of, not the, $10 million Mantles or the Honus Wagner type cards. I view that market as completely removed from the normal everyday transaction of the hobby. Another example would be, your Jim Brown rookie card. And so when we're thinking of these types of cards, where, who's going to be buying these cards? Also, what's the supply of these cards right now? The reality is there are collections of vintage sports cards that are in the basements or attics or bedrooms of lots of people, and these cards aren't graded. As the boomers age that collected cards and kept cards, more and more of these cards will be coming into the marketplace. And what leads me to that is another article I saw by Forbes just a few days ago, that more boomers are living alone than they have in the past. And so this article stated that 26 million Americans over the age of 50 live alone. And so when I think about that, the cost for healthcare, the cost for retirement, the cost for, just aging in general, that's going to weigh on people who collect cards and their families who collect cards. People will have to make decisions to sell things that maybe they don't want to, but they're going to have to. And as those pressures start to come onto the market into the future, that will depress the price, unless there is a rise in collectors for vintage sports cards. And I think when we're looking at specifically, 50s, 60s, even an example for, Jackie Robinson 48 Leaf, who are the folks that are buying these cards right now? And what will their future incomes be? Will they be able to continue to buy them, or will they need to be sellers of them? And this is where I think the trouble really could start to compound, because to be interested in, let's remove the Jim Brown card, but to be interested in Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Jackie Robinson type cards, Jackie Robinson might be a special category, but specifically Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle, you're collecting their cards because you're a baseball fan. And I think baseball, from what we've seen, continues to have issues attracting young folks to be customers. And, just this last from CBS Sports, last season, regular attendance for MLB dropped 5.7%. So we're continuing to see decreases in attendance for baseball, and also the greed in baseball from the owner's perspective in terms of ticketing increases and all the cost of attendance. It becomes more and more of a challenge for folks to be able to take their families to the games. So if you're not a current baseball fan, are you really going to care about Hall of Fame baseball players? Or are you going to start to see people look towards the cards of the early 2000s, late 90s, mid 90s as the place where they want to look at? DeMarco Williams put together a nice little article on Sports Card Investors website. Here's a little logo from it. The 10 most valuable Michael Jordan card inserts from the 90s. In it, DeMarco writes and kind of breaks down top 10 most valuable insert cards. This year, we've seen a lot of people, and within recent years, we've seen lots of interest in 90s insert cards. So will 90s insert cards overtake the pursuit of a Hall of Fame graded card of a Mickey Mantle or a Willie Mays for folks? You know, are the kids that are teenagers now or young 20s now, are they going to be, would they rather have a Charizard card? Or would they rather have a Tom Brady card? Or would they rather have a Topps Chrome LeBron James card? I think those are very real possibilities as we move forward. So the reason I wanted to put this out there is all the channels that I subscribe to and watch, I always hear this notion that vintage sports cards are safe places to park your money. And I would like to say that there is no safe place to park your money when it comes to vintage sports cards from my perspective. I think that people should view sports cards as fun, buy them, sell them, trade them, enjoy them. But if you're going to view vintage sports cards or modern sports cards as an investment, then you really need to also think of the counter argument against, what's the bear case for vintage sports cards. I think the bear case is that baseball is decreasing in popularity. The population of collectors, as people age, they're going to have to make life decisions and sell cards to either enjoy retirement or pay for healthcare expenses, life decisions that come as people age. Are there going to really be that many buyers that have the availability of funds to be paying these, currently inflated prices for other vintage sports cards? So, those are my thoughts. I would love to hear what you think. Do you think vintage sports cards of GOAT Hall of Famers is a safe place to put money? Or should you just enjoy the cards and really be aware of why pricing of cards, even of great Hall of Fame players, of very cool cards, could continue to decrease in prices over the time? So, love to hear your thoughts below, and hope you have a great holiday season and an awesome start to 2023.